Hello, this is week 2, video 2, finding domain and range values for discrete and continuous graphs. This graphic organizer should be taped or glued to page 18 in your notebook. And if you're wondering how am I supposed to fit that title into my table of contents, you do not need to worry about that. Just write down domain and range for page 18. Let's take a look at the domain and range graphic organizer. And also let's start with the definitions. The definition for domain is all possible x values. You should know that because we talked about it in class already. So the definition was all possible x values, and logically that means that the definition for range should be all possible y values. Now we see that we have two different examples that we should work through. We have a discrete function and we also have a continuous function. We're going to focus on the discrete function first. So what I would like for you to do is I want you to identify what all of these points are. What are the ordered pairs that correspond to these points? So we have 9 different points here, so what I'm expecting is for you to have 9 different ordered pairs written down. I'm going to do the first 4 with you, and then you have to do the other 5. So our first ordered pair, I'm going to look at this one right here. So what I see is that it has an x value of 10, and then it also has a y value of 15. My next ordered pair I'm going to look at is this one. I know that it has an x value of 20 and a y value of 30. Now we're going to look at the third one. Third one has an x value of 30 and a y value of 25. And then our fourth that we're going to look at is this one right here. It has an x value of 40 and also it has a y value of 40. So now you need to find the other 5 points. With discrete graphs, if we need to list the domain and the range, all we do is put down whatever those points were. So for domain, since we just looked at that graph, we're going to list all of the possible x values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say D and then put a colon. I'm going to draw that fancy little bracket. So that means that my domain contains all of these points. And if I remember correctly, our domain was 10, 20, 30, 40, and then you have to fill out the other 5. Our range is going to be the same sort of thing. I'm going to write down, instead of a D this time, I'm going to put an R with my same little fancy colon, and I can't remember what the range was, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at it. And so I see that it was y values of 15, 25, 30, and 40. So I'm going to write those all down. So 15, 25, 30, and 40. And then you need to list the other 5. In order to figure out the domain and range of continuous functions, the first thing we should do is box in our function. We need to see how far left it goes and also how far right it goes. So I'm going to follow the line all the way to the left, and I see that it stops at the y-axis. So I'm going to draw a vertical line down on the y-axis. Then I'm going to follow it all the way to the right, and I see that it dead ends at 8. So I'm going to draw a vertical line at 8. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see how far it goes from, or how far it goes down. So we see that it stops at 0, so I'm going to draw a horizontal line across, and then I'm going to follow it all the way up, and I see that at its peak it goes through 150. So now that I've boxed it in, I should be able to figure out what my domain and my range are. Finding domain and range of continuous graphs is a little bit more difficult, but it has the same concepts. We still know that domain is always x, and we still know that range is going to be y. So from there, we need to go back and look at the graph. What I want you to do is look at how far left it goes. So what's the smallest x value that it can be? In order to figure that out, follow the red line down. We see the red line goes down and hits the x-axis at 0. So that means that x is going in between 0 and its largest number is all the way on the right, so follow the second red line all the way down, and it goes to 8. And from what we learned earlier, we see that these are solid lines and solid dots, so that means that our domain is going to be all of the points that are in between 0 and 8. Similarly, we're going to follow the green lines. We're going to see what's the smallest y value, and that's going to be the lower green line, and that hits the y-axis at 0. We know we're talking about y. Then I'm going to follow it up and see where does that other green line hit. It looks like that other green line hits at 150. So what that means is that my range is going to be all possible y values in between 0 and 150. That's it for today, but be sure to check back before Monday, September 9th. You have another video that you need to watch before class that day. And also we have a test coming up on September 11th. Thank you very much. Have a good one.